Fire, easily the element that has helped the human race the most in its evolutionary process, a tool of protection, comfort, cooking, and even a center to sit down and share stories, pass traditions, and eventually build societies. But many times fire has risen up against us and destroyed everything on its path, and in the end, that is its nature. It doesn't matter how much we think we have it under control, it will always show us the opposite. But at least we know what it is and how it works. But for our ancestors, fire was only a mystery. Its power, and especially its lack of control, was the reason why our ancestors avoided it at all costs, until a group of curious people wanted to learn everything about it, and eventually they did. But what if curiosity had never beaten fear? My name is Rafael Peraza, and this is What If Fire Had Not Been Discovered. I know that this is an idea that is practically impossible to consider because sooner or later the human being will have learned how to use fire for our own good. But remember that the idea of this channel is just to entertain and think about the different ways that our species could have taken if some historical events had been different. So I ask you to have an open mind and try to enjoy the video. Well, due to the lack of documentation and the long ancient history of the human being, it has been very difficult for scientists to point out an exact time of the discovery and use of fire by humans in the past. But the most accepted theory by the majority of scholars in this field it is that it was the Homo erectus about 800,000 years ago. There is evidence that about 1,000,000 years ago in South Africa, a tribe of this species managed to control and create fire inside their cave. But it is estimated that this was an isolated case. Despite this, it is widely accepted that the use of fire in several parts of the world at the same time dates from the time we said before, that is 800,000 years ago. The first human interaction with fire must have been very strange. Just imagine a group of Homo erectus seeing a red and yellow thing with strange movements leave the wood or the ground. And at the very moment that you approach it, you feel warmer and warmer, to the point that when you get too close to it, it burns you. What will they have thought about this? What will have led them to want to continue trying to find out about this strange thing if every time they tried to take it, they got hurt? Well, they realized several things. Things like that strange energy not only hurt them, but anything that touched it, and more importantly, that every living thing that spent a long time in contact with that tastes better. It is believed that our first controlled interaction with fire came after an electrical storm burned several trees, and these flames will have killed and at the same time cook an animal. When some of our ancestors tasted that burned animal, they saw that the taste of their meat was better, and not only that, but the meat did not rot so quickly. Seeing the potential value of that to what we call fire, our ancestors decided to investigate and learn more and more about this phenomenon. And then, over time, they only not had learned how to create it on their own, but also how to use it to make their lives easier. Fire allows us to warm up, and in this way traveling to cold areas was now possible for the human being. We were also able to cook and were allowed to have more food diversity and its long-term preservation. This helped to increase the amount of food that there was and eventually the number of members of the tribes. And not only that, when the human began to eat more cooked meat, its nutrients were used in a much more efficient way, which in the long run helped our brain to develop in a better way, one capable of doing almost anything. Fire gave us freedom to come down from the trees to stretch and evolve, and without this, almost all humanity history will disappear. Obviously, with or without the human, fire will always be part of nature. But let's say that for some reason our ancestors simply never wanted to get in touch with it. No matter what happens, no Homo erectus had the courage or curiosity to take advantage of it. This tool that the war gave us never will be in touch with us again. What will happen? Well, let's talk about that. Basically everything changes, absolutely everything. The Homo erectus will have a much longer existence due to the slow development of his brain and body due to the lack of cooked proteins. In our true reality, the real reality, Africa was the birthplace of humanity, and about 100,000 years ago, the Neanderthals began a long journey where humanity began to spread throughout the world. But here, in our alternate reality, this doesn't happen. Homo erectus, without fire, will basically not be able to travel these distances. Of course, they will have certain tools, and over time they could learn how to move in large groups. But as soon as they leave Africa and met the cold climates of Europe and Asia, they will either die by the strong weather conditions, or they will turn around and seek to return from where they came from, or just settle in warmer lands. Therefore, the furthest this humanity will arrive will be only to the equatorial zone. But long before reaching that point, we must learn to survive without the lack of the most traditional way of passing information, telling stories around the fire. Of course, it is quite obvious that with or without a fire, our ancestors will know how to pass information through practice and the repetition of adults to the youth. But many scientists agree that the action of the whole tribe in which they meet around the fire to teach how to do some kind of task, to tell stories basically, to summarize their days, or simply to warm up and dance around the bonfire was crucial to the first tribal traditions to be passed down from generation to generation. So in other words, this is going to be another great problem for the human race of this alternate reality. Fire even helped to heal us and kill bacteria. Open cuts and injuries were the most common wounds in our ancestors. But the power to hit rocks and apply them directly to the affected area helped to seal the wound and even to stop the bleeding. On the other hand, the power to cook the food killed the bacteria that were in it, especially in meat, because the meat of an animal that was recently hunted began to get bad as soon as the prey lost its life, making it easy to bacteria to contaminate it and infect anyone who made the mistake of ingesting it. The funny thing is that in the present day, there are still isolated societies in the world that, although they know what is fire and they use it when it is generated naturally, they have not learned yet how to reproduce it. For example, we have the people of the Indian island of North Sentinel. This society has been proclaimed by the international community as the most isolated in the world, and nowadays it is illegal to try and make contact with the inhabitants since they can get sick with modern diseases and even attack you with all kinds of arrows and stones. In fact, this island is catalogued as the most dangerous in the world. If you want me to talk more about this topic, just comment on it below. But the point is that the tribe of this island that is near to the equator zone and that have physical characteristics of malnutrition and little bodies different than the normal standard shapes surely due to the lack of cooked protein, serves as a perfect example of what a society without fire management could become today. Long story short, the human being would be basically another predator species on Earth. We can create habitats and modify our surroundings a bit, of course, but no more than how an eagle creates a nest, or a lion hunts a prey, or a whale migrates to hot waters when the ocean is cooled by currents of the season. It is practically impossible that in our evolutionary process we will become Homo sapiens similar to what we are today. Maybe, just maybe, we could become Neanderthals, but nothing further than that. And our development space will not leave the warm belt that is the equator zone. Another species within the animal kingdom. That's what we will be. Some of the craziest ideas of this channel, such as if America had never existed, or what if dogs never existed, and many more have been suggested by yourselves, the subscribers, and this video was not the exception. I want to thank Anonymous MC for suggesting this idea, and much more other subs that have been supporting me directly to keep growing and growing. And if you also want your favorite topics to be converted in videos, don't forget to always suggest them in the comments below. But more important, remember to enjoy these videos, please. Also, remember to activate the notifications bell so that you are informed at the exact moment when I post a new video. If you have already subscribed and you want to help the channel grow, you could also help me on Patreon. Remember to hit the like button and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day and thanks for watching.